it's Emily and today I'll be going through all my 5-star reads of the year so far in 2020. So hang on, I don't actually count how many there were. So I have 24 books so far that I've given 5 stars, which is quite a lot out of the 60 something that I've read this year. So yeah, pretty happy with my reading, I guess. Enjoying books. I think I now know like what I like. I'm not just buying random books. I definitely know what I'm enjoying. So yeah, that's positive. So yeah, I suppose we should just jump right on in. I'm going to just kind of say when I read them, what I thought, very briefly. Keep this short because I don't want it to be too long. The first book I gave 5 stars of 2020 was Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston, and I finished that on January the 14th. And so yeah, I really enjoyed it. I got it out from the library, I listened to the audiobook. So this is about the first son of America and the Prince of England, kind of like falling in love, but they have kind of like a hate to love relationship, I guess. I quite liked it. I know lots of other people liked it. So yeah, that was my first 5-star read of 2020. The next book I gave 5 stars in 2020 was Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, which I finished on January the 23rd. The next one is One of Us Is Next by Karen M. McManus. I finished this on the 27th of January, so straight after the last one. This is the sequel to One of Us Is Lying. So this is kind of inspired by a truth or dare game that kind of turns a bit deadly, I guess. I mean, that's what it says on the cover. But yeah, so this follows kind of, I think, 4 more students, whereas One of Us Is Lying followed 4 students. This is like a year and a bit later. Yeah, a year later from the first book, and people just can't seem to get enough of the drama in this town. In Bayview, I think it's called, yeah, Bayview High. So, and I love the colour, just saying. So that's that one. And straight after that I finished Heartstopper on January 30th, which I also gave obviously 5 stars. So this is a horror book. It's set kind of like in an IKEA store, and the book kind of looks like an IKEA catalogue. And it's about these employees, so weird stuff's been happening in the store, and the manager has asked a few employees to stay overnight to see if they can like catch any like, you know, intruders, yada yada yada, and then just weird stuff happens, and yeah, it kind of goes from there. I loved it. That was my first Grady Hendrix book, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. Did kind of give me chills. But yeah, so in February I had another really good reading month. The first book that I gave 5 stars in February was This Is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay. I really enjoyed it. I loved the way he wrote the diary entries. Sorry, I should explain what it's about. If you don't know, this is about a NHS doctor, and he is all like his diary entries from being a junior doctor and kind of through his like years as work in the NHS and his experiences, and there's really funny moments, but there's really sad, like kind of heartbreaking moments, and yeah, all together, and it's really written, it's just written really well. Sorry, can't speak. And it's just, yeah, it was really well written. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really funny. I was definitely laughing along, and my dad really enjoyed it too. So next up I kind of have 3 books. I kind of binged them all in like a day, which is Heartstopper Volume 1, 2 and 3. I've read this 3 times now. Volume 2 I think twice, and Volume 3 once. So I reread the first 2 for the release of the 3rd one. I've got them all signed because I went to the like book tour of Heartstopper Volume 3, so I met Alice Oseman. Forever will be embarrassed about that day. It was one of those awkward encounters in my entire life, and I just want to forget about it, but then I also don't because I met Alice Oseman, so it is a tough one, that one. It was just really embarrassing. The first thing I said to her was, I don't know what to say, and it just kind of deteriorated from there. So I finished, well, all 3 of them on February 8th. So yeah, that's those ones. Oh, I didn't explain what they're about. So it's about these 2 boys, Nick and Charlie, and it's kind of just about their romance. Yeah, and coming to terms with sexuality. Like, Nick doesn't quite know how he identifies initially, and so it's about following him coming to terms with that and being in a relationship with Charlie, and then also Charlie's like home life. Yeah, it's very sweet romance, and they're just kind of a pick-me-up book for me. I just love to like read them if I'm feeling down because they're so quick, and yeah, so I gave them all 5 stars again. The next book I gave 5 stars was Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. I am actually yet to continue on the series. I have bought Vanishing Star, it's over there on my TBR shelf. I just haven't quite gotten to it yet. I don't know why, but I really enjoyed Truly Devious. I'm going to probably reread it before reading Vanishing Star now. It's gotten so long since I read it. It's a YA mystery, which is a genre that I'm finding that I absolutely love. So I finished that on February 22nd. It's kind of about this boarding school sort of thing. It's like made for really, not made for, but like loads of really clever students go there and they all have like a thing. And the reason why the main character goes to this boarding school is because they're writing about a crime that happened at the school, where I think the daughter and the wife of the kind of person who set up this school was murdered / kidnapped. The whole storyline is kind of gone from my brain, so I'm definitely will probably reread it before reading The Vanishing Stair. That's that one. Moving on to March, I only read one 5-star book across the whole of March, and I finished it on the 31st of March, so there's quite a big gap between like the last one, True Devious, and this one, and that is The Kissing Booth 2 Go in the Distance. This was such a kind of pick-me-up book. I just loved it. It's just such a fun read. I loved reading it basically. It was just like a fun experience. I highly recommend it if like you love that kind of thing, like teen rom-com-y, whatever the genre is called, like romance with drama, and it's, yeah, I quite enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars obviously, so I obviously enjoyed it. It was just fun. I wanted to read it before the second movie came out. I wanted to read the second book anyway, after reading the first one. The first one definitely wasn't as, I don't think the first one, I don't know, I haven't read the first one in a long time. I don't know. But I really just enjoyed it, and it was just such a fun read, and I wanted to reread it again instantly just because of the way it made me feel. Moving on to April, the first book that I read in April that I gave 5 stars, I finished on the 14th of April, and that is My Not So Perfect Life by Sophie Kinsella. This is my first Sophie Kinsella book. I really enjoyed it. Why do I keep saying that? So this kind of follows a girl called Katie, and she's living in London, and she doesn't even post her own, well, she does post her own pictures on Instagram, but she takes pictures of other people's coffees in coffee shops and is putting out that she's living the best life in London. However, she's really not, and then she loses her job, so she moves back home to Dorset, Devon, Somerset, neither of the two. So yeah, and so she goes back to help her dad and like stepmom set up their kind of glamping business that they're starting up on their farm, and it goes from there. There's a whole other plotline with, you know, her horrible boss, and then her horrible boss comes to stay at this glamping site, and so she decides, you know, should I get revenge? But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and it was just a fun read. I since have picked up more Sophie Kinsella. I haven't read any more of it. I bought Sophie Kinsella and I've been given Sophie Kinsella. I just haven't read any more yet, so I'll get onto that soon, I promise. I'm sure I will like them too. And the only other book that month that I gave 5 stars, I finished on the 23rd of April, and that was Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. It was my first time reading it, so yeah. Moving on to May, sorry, I'm just finding the page in my journal. The first book that I gave 5 stars in May, we're on to May now, was Homeward Bound by Richard Smith. I finished this on the 5th of May. I really enjoyed it. It's about an kind of elderly man whose wife has passed away, and oh, I said that weird, passed away, and so he kind of moves back into his own home for the first time because he's been living with his daughter, but his daughter's really worried about him, and so his granddaughter moves in with him while she's studying at university nearby, and it's about their relationship building, and he was like nearly famous in like the 60s for his music, and it has this whole musical theme, but it's just really fun to read, and it was so nice seeing the connection, like the relationship, that's what I'm thinking of, the relationship between the granddaughter and grandfather, and the grandfather has this massive record collection, and yeah, I've talked about this book before, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. The next book I read in May was Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire for the first time, which I gave 5 stars, and I finished that on May 20th. The next one that I read in May, I gave 5 stars, was To Burn by Patrick Ness. Surprise, surprise. This book I have actually raved about quite a bit on my channel, as well as Patrick Ness in general. This book is totally bonkers, but it works. It's about this kind of dragon that's been hired to work on this farm, and Sarah, the daughter of like the owner of the farm, kind of builds this relationship with dragons, which is kind of, well, this particular dragon, and which is quite unusual. They're kind of just used for like labour, but then you also get the perspectives, like another storyline at the beginning of this guy called Malcolm. He's trying to get to a destination before a certain date for this event, and it's about like Sarah, the dragon, Malcolm, someone else, like these all people, the FBI, these dragon worshippers, the dragon queen thing, all being part of this legacy that happens on this day. It's set in 1950s America. Yes! The next book I read in May I finished on the 30th of May, and that was The Bad Boys Girl by Blair Holden. This was a reread for like the third time for me. I love it. I just have such good feelings for this book. Like every time I read it I feel happy, and it's just a book that I read when I was, you know, 14, 15, and have since, you know, it's just had that connection with me from when I was a teenager, and every time I reread it I like fall back into being 14, 15 and loving this story and loving Cole because the main character Cole is, you know, he's brilliant and he's funny. So I plan to reread the second book in the series and then also read the third book in the series for the first time. So, because that came out in March and I haven't read it yet and I feel really bad because I love the whole series. So anyway, hoo-ha hoo-ha, on to June. So the first book that I gave 5 stars in June was Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I finished this on June 6th. I listened to the audiobook. It was the first time I read it. I really loved it, and I then bought this beautiful edition after. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. This kind of follows a young lady who is travelling as like a companion to an elderly woman who's quite grumpy, and so when she meets this guy called Maxim de Winter, while in like France, they quickly get married and then they go back to Maxim's estate in England, and it's all about the kind of main character feeling like the whole house, it still revolves around his late wife called Rebecca, and how the whole house just reminds everyone of Rebecca, and all the staff at the house still refer to Rebecca as Mrs. de Winter and not the new Mrs. de Winter. Pretty much that one. Moving on. The next book I gave 5 stars in June was When Life Gives You Mangoes by Karine Getton. I finished this on the 17th of June. I loved this. I really loved it. It's a middle grade set in, I believe, Jamaica. It's Sycamore, which is like a village. So this is about a girl who can't really remember what happened the summer before, and then her best friend Gaynor stops acting like a best friend, and so they have a like fallout, and then this new girl arrives from England. She moves into the village, and so they become friends and they go on adventures together, and it's really fun and cute. But then slowly she starts to remember what happened the summer before, and yeah, it's just a really good middle grade and I really loved it. So I'll probably be rereading it in the future, and when it comes out, because I read it on NetGalley, when it comes out I'll definitely be getting myself a physical version because I really loved it. We're now into July, and the first book that I gave 5 stars in July was After the Rain by Jo Watson. I finished this on the 4th of July. I really adored this. The whole Destination Love series, this is the 4th book in the series, and the whole series I have always given 5 stars to. It's so good. I just fall in love with every book in the series. This is the first time I read After the Rain, and it inspired me to reread the first 3 books in the series, which I've now read the first 2 of. This follows Stormy Rain and Marcus. They're very different. Stormy Rain believes in auras. She checks the signs for everything. Like, she checks the signs when friends get in relationships. She checks if they're compatible, like that. Whereas Marcus is very logical. He has like spreadsheets for everything. He polishes his shoes all the time, and they're put together to go on this flight. And they really can't stand each other, and they really get on each other's nerves, but then they kind of like seem to have this kind of physical attraction to each other, and then afterwards they're like fighting again and they have no idea why it happens, and they tell each other it should stop happening. Yeah, I really loved it. 5 stars from me. And then the only other book I gave 5 stars to in July was Burning Moon by Jo Watson, which was the first book in the Destination Love series that I decided to reread. I finished this on the 27th of June. Oh, I just love it. This follows Lily, who's been left at the altar with a note under her room door saying, "I'm sorry, I can't." And so she kind of has a breakdown and decides to go to Thailand on her honeymoon alone, just on her own. And on the flight she meets this guy called Damien, who's the complete opposite from the guys that she normally likes. And they keep bumping into each other, and then she invites Damien to sleep over in her honeymoon suite to help her kind of relax or kind of forget about things. He invites her to the Burning Moon festival, and yeah, it's about that, and then it's a nice little romance. I just really loved it. I loved going on the journey with them. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. I just loved it. And so I've already read 4 books in August so far that have been 5 stars, so that's been pretty good. The first one is Almost a Bride by Jo Watson, which is the second book in the Destination Love series. This follows Annie, who kind of walks in on her boyfriend cheating on her, and so she kind of is distraught. She doesn't know, she thought she was going to be proposed to that evening, when it turns out all the stuff she saw, the flowers in the car and the reservation for her favourite restaurant, was actually for his other girlfriend. And so she decides to go on a little holiday to Mauritius, where she meets a guy called Chris. However, things take a turn when her ex, Trev, turns up with his new girlfriend. She pretends that she has a boyfriend called Boyden, and so Chris then jumps in and says, "You know what, yes, I'm Boyden," puts on a silly accent because she made up Boyden as being Australian, and he can't do an Australian accent, Chris can't do an Australian accent, and so it's a bit of a mess, but it's just fun and funny. And then they have this little couples competition, even though one's real, one's fake, and yeah, it's just really funny, and it leads to really funny events throughout the whole book. So that was 5 stars from me. The next one that I gave 5 stars to was Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. I finally got around to reading this. So this is about Star, who lives in a kind of rougher neighbourhood. However, she goes to really kind of posh school in a completely different area, and she then becomes the only witness to the shooting of her best friend by a white cop. And Star is kind of put in a position where she can either upset the whole community, or she can put herself in danger. And it's all about kind of speaking up for the Black Lives Matter, and how Khalil shouldn't have been killed because he wasn't doing anything wrong, and how this policeman just jumped to conclusions and just was prejudiced. Highly recommend this, and I'm so glad I finally actually got to it, because I feel like it's a really important read. The next book that I gave 5 stars to in August, I finished on the 4th of August, so already breezing through these great reads, was Honeyland by Elizabeth Acevedo. This is about 2 sisters that kind of don't know each other exists. I don't know if I phrased that right. However, they are connected when their father dies on a plane crash while visiting one of the sisters, and it's all about their kind of very different life. One's in America, one's in the Dominican Republic, and it's about their kind of discovering their relationship as well as going through their different life. I haven't really put that very well. I really enjoyed it, and it's written in verse. I always find it very impactful for books like that. I find reading them in verse, I don't know, just I get more of an impact from it. That's just me personally. The final book in this video is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson, which is my most recent 5-star read. It's actually my most recent read. I finished that on the 9th of August the other day, and this is about a girl called Pip, and she is kind of, for her EPQ, her extra study project at school, decides to investigate or look into the murder or / disappearance of Andy Bell, which happened in her town 5 years ago, and whether Sal Singh actually did it, because that's what the whole town believes. The whole town believes that Sal did it because he committed suicide. But stuff happens, and she discovers that maybe Sal was innocent, and someone out there is really trying to stop her investigating any further. So that's pretty much it. Last book in the video. I feel like this video has been very long, all 24 books. Thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you soon with a new video. I'll be back at you soon. Adios, bye.